Wayne Gretzky isn't who you think he is. Secret deals, family drama, almost quitting hockey. These are 10 things you didn't know about Wayne Gretzky. And first up, the time he broke an entire country's heart with the most devastating trade in hockey history. The Edmonton Oilers had just won their 4th championship with Gretzky, and fans thought he'd be an Oiler for life. So when team owner Peter Pocklington suddenly announced he was shipping Gretzky to Los Angeles, the entire nation of Canada lost their damn minds. Pocklington was drowning in debt and sold hockey's greatest treasure for a quick $15 million. The trade was so earth-shattering that Canadian politicians literally tried to block it, but it was too late. Look at Gretzky, man breaking ankles on the ice and breaking hearts in the boardroom. But that's just one of the 10 craziest stories of Gretzky's career. So let's take things to another level, where one panicked decision cost Gretzky a ridiculous amount of cash. Back in 1979, a teenage Gretzky had dollar signs in his eyes when he signed his first pro contract with the Indianapolis Racers. The owner, Nelson Scalabania, was bleeding money faster than a cut on the ice and desperately needed to sell his biggest star. He sold Gretzky's contract to the Edmonton Oilers. Gretzky, only 17 and scared of having no team at all, signed with Edmonton that same day, ignoring advice to wait for the NHL draft. At Brantford Minor Hockey Association, a 10-year-old Wayne wasn't just good. He was already scaring the hell out of coaches because not only was he embarrassing kids his own age, he was dominating boys 4 years older like they were standing still. On the ice, nobody had ever witnessed anything like Gretzky. Over his years in minor hockey, Wayne racked up over 1,000 goals, shattered every scoring record in existence, and was already being called the next hockey god. So with scouts swarming his games like vultures, Gretzky's future looked golden.
To Dave Loveloy, to Gretzky. Gretzky inside. Oh!
If he completely rebuilt his style from scratch, he might lose the magic that made scouts drool. But with the weight of every Canadian hockey dream on his skinny shoulders and his father having sacrificed everything for Wayne's future, he made a decision nobody saw coming. Wayne knew he couldn't survive another big hit with his small frame, so not long after, Wayne completely transformed his entire approach to hockey. Instead of trying to play the physical game like everyone else, he created his famous office behind the net, where he could see plays developing before anyone else on the ice. But hockey's old-school coaches thought this soft style was absolute garbage and wouldn't work against real competition, so Wayne was laughed at by so-called experts. Now forced to prove every doubter wrong, Wayne knew it was now or never to show his revolutionary style could dominate. But little did he know he wasn't just saving his own career, he was completely rewriting how the entire sport would be played for the next 50 years. Throughout his first 9 NHL seasons, Wayne put the entire Oilers franchise on his back and evolved into a scoring machine hockey had never seen before. So he was the absolute center of the universe at the 1988 Stanley Cup Finals. But that's where things turned intense. Heading into the finals, Gretzky and the Oilers had one simple plan: destroy the Boston Bruins and snatch their 4th championship in 5 years. The game continued, and luckily, the Oilers still took the cup. Gretzky knew that moment could have been his last, so when he raised the Stanley Cup with trembling arms, he made sure he burned every second into his memory, knowing both the win and his time with Edmonton might be coming to a shocking end. But even nearly having his career destroyed ain't as crazy as the complete disaster that almost derailed his entire future before it even started. This catastrophe nearly killed his hockey dreams before they began. In 1978, when Wayne was just a skinny 17-year-old kid, he gambled everything by signing with the Indianapolis Racers of the struggling WHA instead of waiting for the NHL. The NHL had strict rules blocking players under 20 from joining, and Gretzky was way too impatient to sit around waiting. On the Racers, Wayne was the youngest pro hockey player on the continent, and people thought this teenager would get absolutely destroyed playing against grown men who'd been fighting on ice for years. The Racers' owner, Nelson Scalabania, shocked everyone by giving Wayne a personal services contract worth $1.75 million. Absolutely insane money for 1978. But just 8 games into his big career move, complete disaster struck. The Racers were going bankrupt faster than anyone realized, And suddenly Wayne's entire future was hanging by a thread, until one day when everything changed in 30 frantic minutes. The situation went from bad to completely chaotic.
We have a look at the leading scorers in the National Hockey this year. Wayne Gretzky closing the gap with that point tonight, only 4 behind.
It's Wayne Gretzky coming around from behind that and
Oh boy, Howie's going to have fun in the first intermission.
The Racers' owner called Wayne into his office and dropped a bomb. The team was completely finished. Wayne suddenly had 2 choices that would define the next 20 years of hockey. Be sold to the Winnipeg Jets, where he'd be stuck in a frozen small market, or gamble on the Edmonton Oilers, who were planning to join the NHL the next season. With his entire hockey future hanging in the balance and a ridiculous deadline of just 30 minutes to decide, Gretzky made a choice that stunned everyone involved. Instead of going to the established Winnipeg franchise, Wayne bet everything on Edmonton because of one promise. Oilers owner Peter Pocklington swore he'd treat Wayne like his own son. The Racers sold Gretzky and 2 other players for a pathetic $700,000, which looked like highway robbery even back then. What nobody could have possibly predicted was how this desperate fire sale would completely alter the course of sports history. Edmonton joined the NHL the following season, and Wayne led them to 4 Stanley Cups while obliterating nearly every scoring record humans thought possible. The Winnipeg Jets, who missed their shot at Gretzky, eventually crashed so hard they left Canada entirely and became the Phoenix Coyotes. And that split-second decision still reshapes hockey today, as Edmonton remains hockey royalty, while Winnipeg lost their beloved team for 15 painful years before finally getting a replacement. But even that ain't the craziest Gretzky story that's been kept hidden from fans.
It would be beneficial for everyone involved to let me play with the Los Angeles Kings. I'm disappointed about having to leave Edmonton. I truly admire all the fans and respect.
Even that wild story doesn't come close to the time Gretzky brought an entire country to tears on live TV, August 9th, 1988. Just 3 months after hoisting the Stanley Cup in triumph, Wayne was suddenly summoned for what he thought was a routine contract meeting. But when Wayne walked through the door, he instantly knew something was seriously wrong. There sat Peter Pocklington with Bruce McNall, owner of the Los Angeles Kings, and between them on the table was a trade agreement with Wayne's name at the top. Wayne, completely blindsided, was told he was being shipped to Los Angeles like a piece of equipment. "I was absolutely devastated," Gretzky later confessed. "I never once thought I would leave Edmonton. It was my home, my team, my city." But this wasn't just any trade. It was about to trigger the most shocking public meltdown in sports history. As Wayne tried to announce his trade to the Kings the next day, he completely broke down, sobbing on national television. "I promised Mess, teammate Mark Messier, I wouldn't do this," Wayne choked out, while tears streamed down his face. The image of Canada's greatest hero crying uncontrollably was so gut-wrenching that Canadian politicians suggested making Gretzky a national treasure that legally couldn't be sold to an American team. The day instantly became known as Black Tuesday across Canada, and Gretzky never spoke a single word to Pocklington again for the rest of his life. But the public tears were just hiding the even more shocking family drama nobody knew about.
Certainly the Kings didn't have to call a timeout. They've taken all kinds of time to get ready for the face-off. Stepped in by Duchesne, a rolling puck. Taylor, but Gretzky scores!
What fans never discovered until years later was that before the meeting, Pocklington had secretly called Wayne's father Walter with the devastating news. Walter was furious and threatened to expose how Pocklington was forcing the trade because he was drowning in debt from his failing businesses. When Wayne found out his own father was being pressured to keep his mouth shut, he made a decision that shocked everyone close to him. Instead of fighting the trade, he agreed to go to Los Angeles without a battle to protect his family from the fallout. The public backlash turned so violent that Pocklington received multiple death threats, and Wayne's new wife, Janet Jones, was viciously labeled a Jezebel by Canadian media for supposedly manipulating Wayne to move to Los Angeles for her Hollywood career. The damage was so severe that some relationships were never repaired, with family members taking sides in the bitter aftermath After all this drama, you'd think Gretzky's career would have crashed and burned, but that's where his most shocking secret comes in. I just wonder if that's what created Gretzky's absolutely insane mental toughness. Or maybe it was the way he had to completely reinvent his game after turning 30 when his physical skills started fading, but his hockey brain somehow got even more lethal. Like, how is that even possible? He was still leading the entire league in assists at age 37, when most players are collecting retirement checks. Well, it turns out Gretzky's been hiding his obsessive habits, and recently he finally revealed his secrets. Gretzky can't go a single day without watching hours of hockey film. Yeah, even the Great One is a total hockey junkie. Gretzky admitted, "I knew I wasn't the fastest or strongest player, so I had to work twice as hard studying the game. I watched more film than anyone in the league." Even when Gretzky's hands weren't as quick anymore, his mind was still destroying opponents before they even knew what happened. Now that's crazy. But at least nobody called him washed up like the time he had to silence all his critics in the 1993 playoffs. And that might just be the craziest thing that's happened to Gretzky since he embarrassed an entire team with one move. If you enjoyed these shocking facts about the Great One, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe right now. We're grinding our way to 10,000 subscribers, and your support is what keeps these videos coming.